The thing is, the things that are known are the things that his guest was basically saying, well, that's bullshit.
Maybe we should question authority, question the experts, like, seek alternative information and explore that.
They're saying, we're not the experts. We're asking the experts. This is what they say, and we're disseminating that information. And everyone's like, the government trying to act like an expert.
There's a lot of things to know, and nobody knows them all. And there are things we may never know.
But the question always has to be exactly what is being questioned. Have yourself a beer with us and take a swig and go, just like we do, because we're old men. And welcome to another Kitchen Sink Microscopy. I am Casey Rochford, and this is my beer. And we would love it if you would hit that the thumb thing, and, share with the little, the finger thing, or the arrow thing going up, whatever. And, down here, and there it is. There's a little red subscribe button in the corner that I went to all the trouble to design and put there in the corner, and you should click on
it. Yeah, so if it's red, I think that's the case. You want to click it. If it's gray, you've already clicked it.
Click it. Click it good.
Yeah. Devo, sorta. It's Mevo. And there's a little bell next to that if you want to, tap that bell or ring it or whatever. And well, it's not going to actually ring, but YouTubers say that. If you want notifications, which could be helpful, we promise not to assail you with a pile of notifications. So I got my beer right here, and I'm Eric Rosenblatt. And don't forget out there, all y'all, that Casey and I write our own music, like a lot of it. And chances are there's going to be a fresh new song at the end of the episode, at least a piece of a song. If you want the whole song, well, then you could, I think there's a Patreon option. You can go out there. I don't know. Go to the website, ksmvidcast.com, and you'll get all of it right there. So, yeah. Am I right, Casey? Right?
Yeah. Well, we're also on Spotify.
Oh, yeah. Spotify, iTunes.
But those bastards,
Exactly.
Spotify.
Fucking Spotify. So, what do you want to talk about today?
Well, I think Spotify is a pretty good one. It's in the news right about now. Well, time of recording. Who knows how far back in time it was when this finally comes out? But there was this
still be relevant though.
Yeah, there was this whole issue between, not really between, but Joe Rogan and Neil Young, and it was all about entertaining anti-vaxxers, or basically the COVID is a hoax kind of crowd, and Neil Young basically issued an ultimatum, and instead of being able to walk away, Spotify was just like, there's the door, and booted him off. And Joni Mitchell followed suit, and then there was rumors that Foo Fighters would follow suit. I don't know that that's going to be the case, but Spotify lost like $2 billion worth of stocks overnight. Stuff. So Neil Young apparently did make a pretty big difference to Spotify.
Yeah. So hold on, before we start, is there some kind of dog fight happening? I heard a lot of dog barking and stomping around.
Yeah, I was worried that would come through the mic. It's the upstairs dogs.
Yeah, it's all right. The upstairs dogs.
Ooh, let the dogs out.
Oh man, Baja men, bringing them back. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a really interesting thing, and I think it's a little bit ironic because it wasn't Neil Young's position that Joe Rogan's and Spotify was like amplifying Joe Rogan's spreading of misinformation. And I think it's a little bit ironic that Neil Young would be the one to say that because he wrote an entire album about GMOs and Monsanto and stuff like that, which is pretty much the same level of like denial of facts and things like that, and reality and science, the science, if you want to say that. So I do find it a bit amusing.
What was his album about?
It was basically a GMO based album. Hold on a second. Let me
like anti-GMO.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Listen to the dogs bark while I check that out. Let's see.
Yeah. I mean, Neil Young is a hippie, I guess. So I suppose that makes sense.
Oh, it's called the Monsanto Years. Released in 2015, and it's a basically anti-biotechnology kind of thing.
Wow.
So, you know, that's the thing. It's like, that does seem a bit hypocritical, you know, for him to be kind of doing the same shit as he's condemning it was somebody else doing. And Joe Rogan, now, as far as I'm aware, now I do kind of occasionally watch a little bit of Joe Rogan stuff, but he's more passive. Like he just lets people talk and ask them questions and brings on people, particularly like controversial people to talk about, which is fine. Like I don't see a problem with that. Like it's a good thing, right?
Yeah, that's kind of what we aspire to be doing. But I think the crucial difference is that passive stance. So, like, I understand that probably helps him get those people on the show better because they just get to talk. But yeah. I feel like if we were in Joe Rogan's place, we would also be like challenging ideas.
We would, and that's the thing that kind of separates us. Like, I mean, I do want to talk to people and hear what they have to say, even if they disagree with me. But you know, what it comes down to, in my opinion, in this regard, is what is the general slant of the guests and the interview process? Like, is it a very coast to coast style thing where it's like all the guests are very woo, or is there a little bit of this, a little bit of that, kind of like a you know, cornucopia of ideas? Like, and that's kind of what I see from Joe Rogan. Like, it's not.
I heard it's kind of taken a direction lately, and I'll admit I've never actually watched or listened to a single minute apart from the Bernie Sanders interview. Actually,
oh yeah,
I did watch that.
I've seen quite a bit. Now I haven't sat through like a whole episode. Well, maybe a few, but I do kind of keep up with it, especially because of the parallels to our channel.
Right.
Like I like his style as far as the way he does things, and I think, you know, whatever he's doing, well, that's the right thing to do because obviously he's got like a lot of viewers, like millions of people watching his show.
Yeah. I mean, that's because he was on Fear Factor, though. Like,
well,
all celebrity status that got him.
Yeah, it was more than Fear Factor, but yeah, he already was known before that, so that did help him along. Yeah, wrestling and stuff.
Like talking about wrestling.
Yeah, exactly.
Not actually wrestling.
No. But yeah, I don't know. I think people are kind of overreacting to this situation. I you know, whatever. I'm not going to fault Neil Young. Like whatever he He's his own person. He can like do whatever he wants. And, you know, I don't understand being like, well, I don't want to be on the same platform as this person that I disagree with, or saying things I don't believe. Like, well, that'd be like saying you don't want to be on the same fucking planet when you're talking Spotify. Like, oh, I'm just going to go into space and go to the moon because I don't like person X. Like, yeah, you know, can we find a way to kind of get along? Or maybe, hey, wait, maybe if you're right and the other person's wrong, have a conversation, make a video, debunk what they're saying, you know, discuss things. Like, just simply running away isn't going to fix anything. It's not going to convince the people who believe or follow a particular ideology to change their minds. In fact, that'll probably just reinforce it.
Yeah, I mean, the whole idea smacks of boycotting, which never really works. Like barely ever works. Mm-hmm. And I guess you could argue that it works if it gets attention or it's addressed somehow by the boycottee. I guess. So like both. Okay, so Joe Rogan issued an apology video apologizing to Spotify. Basically, like he didn't really backtrack on, you know, what the guest said or having the guest on without challenging him or any of that.
Well, that's fair, because just like Neil Young, Joe Rogan is his own person. He can do it. They can do what they want.
Yeah, and then Spotify issued like COVID-19 rules and basically are going to do the YouTube thing where like any mention of it brings up a warning or something, which I don't know how they're going to do that considering they're like an almost entirely audio platform. I think they started bursting into video just because of Joe Rogan. I don't know.
Well, and it might
maybe
on exactly. We're going to supplant Joe Rogan. Just so you know, dude, we're coming for you. We're going to take number one eventually. And maybe it'll be on the device that you're watching on. There might be a little like notification or something, which honestly, like, I don't get the point of that. Because here's the thing.
Well, that's their cop out. That's their like, well, here, if you want to learn the facts, here they are. You know, you can go do your own research or whatever.
Well, but the facts are usually Wikipedia. You know, so like, how factual is that? How much? I mean, yeah, it's pretty okay. Like, there is a process there, but the thing is, like, a lot of these things, these kind of nebulous sort of like, well, we don't really know all the details. Sorry, I got a piece of cat hair in my mouth. There is no like hard and fast, like, this is how it is. You know, if you want to talk math, right? If somebody's talking like saying like, oh, you know, math doesn't add up and it doesn't work or whatever. Yeah, okay, you can throw out something that says, well, this is actually how it works. That, you know, like, this is how numbers work.
What don't we know here? Are we talking about COVID?
Well, I mean, yeah, because to some extent, like, there's some things that are known and things that are not really known, and
yes,
people are questioning things.
The thing is, the things that are known are the things that his guest was basically saying, well, that's bullshit. Like, yeah. Well, I think he's had, so it's bullshit. And then
I think he's had more than one guest though that's kind of like talked. I mean, and I don't blame him, because it is sort of like a timely big deal sort of thing. Like, hey, you know, this is something that people are interested in because it's affecting their lives. Like, we want to know about stuff, and we should know about stuff. And, you know, I kind of like the whole coast to coast thing. Like, maybe we should question authority, question the experts, like, you know, seek alternative information and explore that. Obviously there are people, the kind of people who tend to become flat earthers, and moon hoaxers and stuff like that, or moon landing hoaxers, are the kind of people who glom on to whatever idea comes their way, right? If it fits what they suspect or believe, they buy it. And hook, line, sinker, no questions asked. But then again, the converse is true for other people. There are other people who believe anything that a self-proclaimed expert says or whatever, without question. You know, maybe there's room for something to be in the middle, and I think that's healthy. Like,
well, you know, it's healthy to consider that. in certain situations, but like these aren't so-called experts, right? Like this is like it's not even government. Like peel the government off of it because everybody scapegoats the government and they don't believe it because the government says it, but it's like this is an actual scenario because often you say that the government pretends they're experts. Well, this is an actual real life scenario where they're saying we're not the experts. We're asking the experts. This is what they say, and we're disseminating that information. And everyone's like, the government's trying to act like an expert, and like we're not going to believe anything they say.
I get what you're saying, like, but the thing is, there are certain things that are pretty close to known, and there are other things that are not so known, and there are definitely factors in play that dissuade those people from conveying certain information. There's kind of an incentive to follow a certain trajectory, and that's the problem that I have with those kinds of systems. Sure, if there's somebody who's a doctor and they're saying like, well, this is how doctory things are, like, yeah, well, I'd be more inclined to agree with them than, the guy that does the gardening across the street or something. But then again, there's not really there's conflicting viewpoints on things. And it makes sense because this is not like there's a lot of things to know and nobody knows them all. And there are things we may never know.
But the question always has to be exactly what is being questioned, because they are questioning the things that we do know. They're basically trying to be contrarian and just go the exact opposite way. And like, that's the problem. Like if you want to talk about like how the mutation was selected for, and like why it sprang up in China and all that stuff, like those are like the hairy gray unknowns or whatever, right? Like, but to talk about like here's the defining difference between like why there's so much of a slant towards good information on this, and it's life and death. Like you don't see that kind of push on flat earth information going around.
Well, no, because it doesn't matter.
It doesn't hurt anyone.
Yeah, it really, like at the end of the day,
you want to believe the earth is flat, go right ahead. Like,
like it not really kill anyone. Doesn't affect anybody. and now, like I said, one of the things that
I take that back. There was a guy that like shot himself into space to prove the earth was flat.
Yes, to prove it. And now, okay, to be fair, it wasn't because he.
But that's like a very minute.
But okay, to be fair to this guy, like I got to give him credit. Like he had some big balls to do that to prove his point.
And he was willing to do an experiment. I like
that. Exactly. Put his ass on the line. And it wasn't because he believed the earth was flat that experiment failed and he died. It was
just the reason he did it.
Well, exactly. Yeah. Like it was just, maybe they didn't have the right amount of funding or engineering involved. Like shit happens, rocketry, like rocket sciences, man. Oh, dude, all I gotta say, mad respect for anybody that gets on top of a rocket and goes into space. Fuck yeah. Like you get my vote. You are awesome. I could never do that. But the thing is, like, I often say things like, oh, we should strive for the truth. And to me, the truth is it's a vector. It isn't a thing that actually exists. It's more like a goal that we attempt to achieve. And there are a lot of people that I kind of want to try to balance this with all of the very vocal and animated naysayers about the whole coof thing with the very vocal and animated people that believe a bunch of stuff that also isn't true on the other side, like who believe that it's super fucking deadly. Like, yes, it's a risk assessment kind of thing. Like, it's not as bad as the people who are saying, well, you should fucking panic and run in the streets and freak out. No, it's not. It isn't that big of a deal.
No.
Okay, a little bit of caution, but balance it out and a little bit of reason. Try to collect the facts, collect yourself, for God's sake. Please.
I'll admit there was more reason to, not that you should ever panic, but there was more reason to feel panic early on.
Yes.
We didn't know what it was. We did know, like, we could see statistics that it was worse than the flu. For a select few, it is very deadly.
Yeah.
And
oh yeah. No, you're right.
So it's like there are, like, no, it's not, like, I've had it, but I had a weak strain and I've got the booster and everything. So, like, it was muted, but, like, yeah, for most of us, it's going to be like a cold or a flu. Sure. But that's not the point, that alone isn't the reason why you should be, like, extra cautious or, buy a bunch of extra toilet paper.
Well, yeah, where the hell did that come from?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But that's the reason why, like, even if you don't stand much of a chance of dying from it, there's a thing called empathy for others, and that's where people kind of, like, differ on the tree. They branch off, I think.
Yeah. Well, I think now the problem I have with all of this is, like, lumping everybody into one box. Like, okay, if you question anything, you're in that box, and if you're, like, totally on board with everything, then you're in this box. Like, well, there's a lot of space between those boxes where there's a lot of interesting viewpoints and people who have interesting thoughts. Like, I agree that empathy is really important. And as somebody who is one of those people that cares about humanity and wants to do good for planet Earth, yeah, like, you should take every precaution, and it shouldn't be limited to the coof.
No.
Like, even the cold, the flu. Like, yeah. I
like masks.
Yeah,
I think it's a good idea.
Yes.
If you're sick,
Yeah, exactly. I would hope that we learn some valuable lessons here.
Yeah.
That like, hey, maybe it better be a little more careful, because, by the way, lots of people die every year from the flu and the common cold and stuff like that. That's a thing. Uh-huh. So yeah, maybe like, I'd like to see a change where it's not weird in the US, because it's totally normal in, like, Asian countries. If you're sick, cover your face with something.
That's a good takeaway. Like, even the cold can kill you.
Yeah.
And people are going to say, well, that's why we shouldn't worry about COVID. And it's like, well, no, actually, you should just be worried about getting sick or not getting other people sick.
Yeah. Okay. Getting worried about getting sick probably depends on who you are. But yeah, getting other people sick. Like, hey, you know what? If you're feeling a little under the weather, take those sick days. Stay home.
I'm not worried about dying of a cold, but I still don't want to get sick. So
exactly. Like, who wants that? Who enjoys getting the fucking cold or chickenpox? I remember chickenpox parties from back in the day.
Yeah.
Oh man. Oof.
And there's freedom arguments about this too.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, on one end, you've got, it's my freedom to choose the vaccine or the mask or blah, 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 right? And then on the other side, it's like, well, I should have the freedom to go somewhere without, a reasonable fear of, like, catching something that might kill me or my dad or whatever,
Yeah, no, and I completely understand that. And that's one of the, like, really difficult things, like, being an anarchist, getting into conversations with one of my coworkers back in the day who is one of those people who cannot get vaccines because of allergic reactions and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I wrestle with that. Like, that's something I still can't figure out. And it's one of those things I don't know. Like, it's kind of like the abortion thing. Like, I don't know. It does come down to personal things. I'm definitely pro freedom, pro free choice, sort of like laissez-faire sort of person. but maybe a lot of this came down to the ways things went down. Like if the powers that be it government, media, scientists, whatever, if they were just like simply like, hey, here's the facts, here's the data, this is what you ought to do, because here it is.
We didn't have data.
Well, we do, but there
when it first happened, like, it was new.
Yes. No, it was, but the mandates, there's a difference between people who deny the facts and people who don't want to be coerced or forced to do something.
Yeah.
Even if they believe.
In fairness, though, it wasn't a mandate to begin with. They did ask. They did say, this is what the CDC is suggesting.
To begin with. Yeah.
Yeah. And nobody was doing it. And in fact, I think had we gone harder on the mandates and the shutdowns, we wouldn't be in this mess now.
No, the shutdowns are demonstrably ineffective and actually had the opposite effect. What we should have done is done what I had said in the very beginning. I think I called it. We should have had the rapid antigen tests pushed out right away, so everybody could test themselves.
They had to develop that, though. Like,
oh no, they already existed. It was already there. Like when it began. Yeah, it required tweaking and stuff like that, but everything
they could test for coronavirus. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but it's a simple shift to change things, and they were being developed, but they weren't the primary focus of the system, I guess, whatever it might be at the time. And that was the wrong choice, honestly. Like the lockdowns made things worse. And you have to account for not just how many cases there were and deaths there were from COVID. You also have to account for suicides, overdoses, heavy drug abuse and domestic violence and all the crazy extra stuff that happened.
Those things. Okay. A lot of people are like, oh, if you die in a car wreck, they'll say you died of COVID. And to me, this is the flip side of that kind of extreme argument. It's like, there's a lot of factors that go into committing suicide. You're not just going to be told to stay home for 3 weeks and then kill yourself over.
No. But the numbers don't lie. Like there's a sharp rise in that.
Well, the numbers don't lie in the fact that shutdowns all over the world worked because they went full on and stuck with it. Whereas we were like, maybe we can relax a little here and there. And that's what made it worse. And that's what drug it on. And that's why we're still in it. Because we've been hitting it too much.
You have to look at like what the effects were, like the case numbers, the deaths and things like that. It was basically the same, even with Sweden that did not do any of the above. They were just like, here's some recommendations. It was all the same.
See how shitty that turned out? Like they backtracked on that when they finally started getting hit pretty hard.
When?
Probably close to a year ago now. Like they totally backtracked on that laissez-faire stuff because it like the numbers were just outrageous there.
But then the UK that locked down harder than anybody else, they just simply let it all go now. They're like, oh, yep, there's no restrictions at all. Yeah. Well, and it might have something to do with the prime minister being found to have been partying a lot during that time, kind of disobeying his own rules, and calls for his resignation. And then they were like, oh.
Was that the bloke that looked like an extra greasy drunk Trump?
Yeah. That's a pretty good way to put it. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that exactly.
A little sweatier.
But I mean, it's one of those things like we can say whatever we want to say, like, oh, this is what we should do. This is what's working. This is what's not working. But we don't know. And we won't know probably for like another decade. We'll only know in hindsight. So I don't proclaim to know the answers, but I can at least look at like kind of some of the information and be like, this doesn't seem right. This is kind of okay. Like, I don't know. All I know is it's a good thing that it was this particular disease and not something more Ebola like, that like 50% of the time you're dead.
Yeah. Well, I'm not really a virologist, so I don't know if this is 100% possible or not, but enough mutations happen and it could become like that. It could become airborne.
I'm not a virologist either, so with neither of us being that, then take all of this.
It's more genetics than anything, I guess.
But
I do know a fair amount about, but
the ones that I've been following have said essentially this is how a lot of viruses go, to be less deadly. It seems to be the trajectory, and we might be like the Omicron might be kind of like one of those kinds of like, well, now it's just going to it'll be with us forever for sure.
And they're going to make it endemic. I heard that.
Yeah, but it won't be like deadly.
Right.
And it may be that way forever. I don't know. But what I do know is that everybody bungled this every step of the way. And if this were like, because, coronavirus from the beginning was not like overall, it wasn't a death sentence for sure. And there's still people. This is another thing that's going around. Like, there's all these people spreading misinformation that it is a death sentence. Like, oh, if you get coronavirus, you're basically fucking dead. Like,
I don't know if I heard anybody being that like.
I just heard it on Cairo the other day. Somebody was saying that oh yeah, it's like that's the last nail in your coffin if you get coronavirus.
Maybe he meant like himself or something. Like, I don't know.
It could be, but that does get, in talking about spreading misinformation. Like, we should be all about the facts. We should be all about what, like.
But again, it was a death sentence to some, like, and a pretty horrible.
Well, but that doesn't mean that's not dismissing the people who are saying it's a death sentence to all. So yes, it is. So is the flu. So is the cold. So are many other things.
Right.
But in the grand scheme of things, as far as viruses go, it really wasn't that bad. And that's my concern, is that we had a virus that wasn't really that deadly, and we fucked it up like so fucking hard. Like, so noobs. I'm surrounded by noobs. Everybody's a fucking
I suppose in hindsight, like I'll agree that carrying on this far out is a little overboard and ridiculous. But with it being novel, with seeing how, like, albeit protracted in time, how deadly SARS-1 got to be, and the fact that, coupled with our inability to like test for it ubiquitously and know much about it, but see like more people dying from it than the flu, like right off the bat, there was some measure of like prudency in that, like. Which in hindsight is easy to overlook because of how muted it's become, right?
Yeah, I'll totally give you that. Like, that, it made sense. Like, we didn't know what the hell was going on. Like, that's fair to kind of be safe in that regard. But now, no.
Yeah. But I'm on board with that. Yeah, like now it's like we can back off. And,
and most countries are. The thing is, like, I do worry because of how much bungling I saw happen, how much like running around like a chicken with your head cut off, and people doing this and doing that and saying this and saying that, and no one knew what the fuck was happening. Like, what happens when a real pandemic, like,
or an asteroid's coming?
Yeah, Spanish flu, kind of Ebola.
Well, okay, if everybody stays in their house, maybe the asteroid won't blow us up.
All right, let everybody go to Australia and jump at the same time, and we'll move Earth over.
Okay, you can go out, but you have to be back in your house by 9 p.m.
Oh my God.
The asteroid dust that's kicked up really is only a problem after 9 p.m., but you can go get your toilet paper. Go ahead.
Dude, I swear to God, if there was going to be an impact from space, people would panic buy toilet paper.
Oh yeah,
that would totally happen, because they'd probably be like, "Oh, I'm going to shit myself when it happens, so I got to wipe myself, my burned out corpse or something." People are crazy. Oh man,
we should totally do like a skit that just is all satirical of that, like some guy just sitting in his recliner and like a light bulb goes out and he's like, "Fuck, I better get some toilet paper."
Toilet paper panic. Oh my God.
Like, anything little goes wrong, get the toilet paper.
Yeah, what the hell? And as a prepper, like I never saw that one coming.
I've seen your giant, like 8-foot tall stacks of bug out gear, and you had like a 4-pack of toilet paper.
Yeah, I never thought that was going to happen. Now I fixed it. I fixed it now, so that's not a problem. But toilet paper of all things.
Well, I guarantee you the canned food to toilet paper ratio was incorrect.
Yeah. All the beans. Yeah. Oh man.
No, beans again.
It's beginning to smell like the inside of a packet of dry roasted peanuts. But yeah, to kind of go back, just let's rein things in a little bit and talk about like this whole Spotify thing, and
yeah,
because it does sort of feed into this cancel culture thing, and people disagreeing with people and feeling like they need to shut things down, and us being YouTubers that sort of do something similar to Joe Rogan. I do worry about that, like because we have talked for the long time. We want to have Daryl Davis on, but we also want to have a white supremacist on. Like I honestly, like, I want to know where they're coming from. And I think a lot of other people want to know as well. And I think it'd be very, very like helpful and illustrative for people to hear somebody who's a white supremacist to tell their story.
Well, and here's the other thing. Why it's important to let stuff like this happen is because, the people that watch something because it's exactly the opposite of what they believe and they just want to be mad about it are going to be hearing the ideas that might one day change their mind. You take that away and you're just like, oh, this is going to offend somebody. This is ultra sensitive. We better just take it away. Then nobody's learning anything from anybody.
Yeah. Nothing will ever change at that point.
When you remove something from the stage, you've created an echo chamber. Mm-hmm. There's a void there.
And it's a self-reinforcing void that it's like the only information you get is information that supports what you view.
Yeah.
You're never going to see an alternate view.
So when the Joe Rogan, Neil Young ultimatum was issued, I found myself thinking a lot of different things. I was like, all right, go Neil, sticking up for your values or whatever. And, you're not really, I don't think he really like expected himself to like actually walk away from that with a win. But Um,
I'll give him credit for sticking up for what he believes.
Yeah, and he wasn't asking anyone to cancel Joe Rogan. He just said, like, I'm strictly dealing with my morals and ethics here, and that's cool. You know, like that was fine. People can give a shit if they want, but I think he's awesome. But I was also thinking, like, man, I feel bad for Joe Rogan being put in this position because, you know, our show could easily undergo the same scrutiny for some of the stuff that we talk about. And, you know, it's, you know, at least we try to make sure that we're treading lightly and reminding people, like, not hurt others or themselves and, you know, stuff like that. Like, I feel like we take actual, like, proactive measures to, you know, keep things as safe and sane as possible.
Yeah. And
but then right in the middle, I was like, oh, but Joe Rogan's spreading misinformation. I don't like that, you know. So
well, and that's fine. It's okay to, like, be troubled by that. But then you have to think about the audience. Like, you know, do you think that your audience is a bunch of your believers, your sheep that you can, like, manipulate and control and direct to do whatever you want? I don't believe that people are like that. I think most people, yes, there are absolutely people who just want somebody to lead them. I'm not one of them, and I try to encourage everybody to not be one of them. That's kind of my goal on the show, is like, hey, critical thinking, right?
Yeah.
You know, like, question things, you know, but hey, stay grounded.
If you think of a person's consciousness as like a celestial body, I feel like the more developed people have this mass that has, like, plenty of its own gravity, right?
Yeah.
And then, you know, like a black hole of misinformation will come along, and somebody with less of that character is more affected by the gravitational pull than we are.
Ooh, that's a great analogy. Yeah, so we want to build the mass of you. Yeah. We want to make you fat with knowledge and thought and
thought skill. Especially.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, and critical thinking. That's what it all comes down to. You know, I like a bit of woo, as everybody knows. I love conspiracy theories, but I love them in the sense that it's like, well, it's a fun thought experiment. Like, yeah, maybe there's some interesting things out there, and I'd like to
watching a serial killer documentary and enjoying it, but not going out and being a serial killer.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the whole thing. Like,
I'm sure some people do that.
They do, and those are the very same people who are flat earthers. Just saying. No, wait, no, I don't want to lump flat earthers as serial killers. That's not fair.
I'm sure there's at least 1 in 7+ billion people. Well, a flat earther and a serial killer.
Yeah, there probably
small as those odds might be.
But, you know, it's a very thin line to cross there at that point. And those people, the thing is, like, you can put up all the Wikipedia articles you want, and you're not going to fix that issue. The people who have preconceived and presumed that things are a certain way, like, I want to encourage people to be explorers, to learn, to question, fucking question everything. But, you know, stay on Earth. It's nice to fly, but, you know, you got to be grounded. But yeah, those kinds of things. I would say that, like, most people are sensible enough to know the difference between fancy or fantasy and reality. But the thing that bugs me
that might be projection, though.
Well, it could be. Well, it's hopefulness.
Yeah.
The problem I have with the whole censorship thing and this presumption of like, well, just simply some celebrity or somebody that people follow saying something, well, that's enough to change everybody's mind. Well, hey, welcome to politics, bitch. Like, well, should we cancel politics too? Because it's exactly the same thing.
Oh man, what if we did that? What if we just said like, cancel politics?
If we did, all this Ukraine shit wouldn't be happening. People would be a lot happier and would get along. Like, I would like that. But man, good luck. Good luck changing that. That's you can't fight City Hall, I guess. Man.
Politics is almost like a human nature sort of thing. Because politics exists outside government too.
Yeah, like the forces that are behind all of that are definitely human nature. Conflict and disagreement and tribalism and all this stuff and teams and everything. That's what humans do. And well, honestly, I can't wait for the alien invasion. But
if they came right now, they'd be like enveloped by America and become U.S. aliens or something.
U.S. aliens? No, the USA would have it wouldn't even matter. Might as well be another island. Oh, fucking ants. Fuck you, you fucking ant.
Oh
yeah, the sugar
ants.
The sugar ants are back.
Yeah, those things are incorrigible.
Yeah, I hate using poison. God, another ant. See this little dickhead right here? I don't know if you can see that guy. Here he is on my thumb. Little fucking dickhead.
Killed a living being on YouTube.
I don't want to do that, but like I don't want to use poison, but yeah, I'm using poison because the house is being overrun. My cat's food bowl is full of ants.
Yeah.
Like, man.
Well, I have run into many an ant myself, and I'm no fan of them. But I had that happen where they were like in the kibble, and I'm like, what the fuck do they want with kibble? And I look at the ingredients, and now, mind you, dogs and cats don't have sweet receptors on their tongue. There's sugar in it.
What?
I'm like, what? Why?
That doesn't make it. Are they expecting people are going to eat it?
Right. Like, why put sugar on pet food when they can't taste anything sweet?
Oh, that's nonsense.
That shows you how much we put sugar on everything. It's like, does this need sugar? Sure, probably.
Oh yeah, no, you're right. Like, sugar is a huge problem throughout the Western world. Like, ketchup has sugar in it. I think mustard might have sugar too, which is a weird one.
Every fucking thing has sugar. Like,
yeah,
at least some form of its own natural carbohydrate. Which are sugars and stuff, but yeah.
Man. Well, and going back to like Neil Young, I will agree with him on a few fronts that
he does rock in the free world.
That is true. Okay, yes, you're right. And, I think we should be cautious of big business or big government or big anything. Like anything that's big, we should be extra skeptical of those things. Monsanto, yeah, they've done some shady shit. But because Monsanto does shady shit doesn't mean that GMOs are a bad thing.
Right.
Like, that's the important takeaway, that things are more nuanced. And I think the same rules apply for the COVID-19 thing. It's like there. I don't know. The important thing is to point your needle towards the truth. Like, try to aim to be as close to accurate to the truth as possible. You're never going to get there, and if you think you're there, well, you're way off base. So that's an important thing, but it's really important to kind of like try to at least aim for that. I mean, that is part of science, right?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Like,
the word truth, though.
That's why I said part.
Yeah, like finding the truth of something. Like in science, I don't think truth is the right word. There's just facts and data.
Yeah,
it's our understanding at the moment. It's not like a gradient. It's like those things don't work, this works. We're going with that for right now.
We're here and we're aiming to try to improve things. Well, and honestly, it's the same thing with engineering. Engineering operates the same way.
But with people, it's more blended, right? So,
and that's why
it's also not always in the middle exactly either.
No, it isn't. In fact, it tends to be a lot more polarized, and that might be due to external forces. And that's my point, is we should ignore those forces. I don't care what news network you like to watch or what political party you ascribe to, what team you're a member of. Like, it's irrelevant. Like, all of that is irrelevant. There is a planet here that we coexist on, and well, we should find a way to coexist, right? Like, and we should figure out the best way to coexist. That's the goal.
You know what? I just had a revelation. Political parties are basically just horoscope, but you only have two options given to you. And everyone is like, oh yeah, that's totally me. That's how I'm going to think. And they just filter over into that little box. Instead of like 12 boxes, you get two. Like, oh my God.
Imagine if you're a horoscope, you open the newspaper. For the
you're having a bad day. You're having a good day.
Well, for the old people that still know what a newspaper is, like, imagine you open the paper to the horoscope section, and it's like, well, you got Pisces or Taurus. There you go. There's your horoscopes for the day. Like, those are your two choices. Pick one. And I will bet, like you said, people will find a way to adjust their thinking to fit themselves into that box.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I must be a Pisces because, I share like 3 out of 10 variables.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't make sense.
See, here's what you would have without politics. Like, oh, here's the right way I think we should do this. And somebody else is like, well, no, I disagree, and here's why. And they would have a conversation. But with politics painted on everything, it's like, well, here's how I think we should do it. And they're like, you're a Republican.
That's the whole thing. It's like, oh, well, but I've figured out that I'm a Pisces, but you're a Taurus. Oh, hell no. I'm not going to listen to what you have to say. I don't care. Like, no consideration. Like, that is a problem. And that division, this is the thing. That division is what allows people to be manipulated. And I don't want to say too much because I feel like we're going to get the YouTube algorithm fighting against us on this, but that is the thing. That division is the problem. Like, seeing the other people as opponents, as the enemy, tribalism, essentially. It allows people to be manipulated. Because once you feel part of a tribe, like one of your tribe members says something, anything, and you're going to be inclined to believe it. And if somebody from another tribe says something different, you're going to be inclined to disbelieve it.
And tribalism's at the core of cancel culture too.
Okay, it is. Yeah, it is. Like, man.
Oh, my tribe says this guy sucks. I better follow suit.
Yeah, well, but here's the thing. Like, what is the end game? Is the goal to kill everybody that you disagree with? Or is the goal to change the hearts and minds of people you feel differently from?
I think for most people, it's just a goal of surviving. They want to be included and like supported by others around them, like-minded people or whatever.
I could see that, and that's exactly how echo chambers form, which is unfortunate.
Even though, like, at this point in civilization, like, there isn't that much of our survival that really should depend on that.
Yeah.
Right? But it's a carryover. I get that, you know, like, there are some vestigial sort of things that we do, like see patterns and everything, you know, like.
Oh, yeah. And like that prehensile tail that we used to have, like.
We still have.
Oh, yeah. That's true. Well, and there's people who like tails too.
It's more pronounced than about half of us. Yes, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
There's a 50% chance you had a tail at birth.
And
they remove it, so
it might come back.
It doesn't have musculature, so as far as I know, it's basically useless.
Yeah, at this point. Well, technology, like we as humans. Well, I say we. I mean, I say that as if I'm a human. But we have solved so many problems, and yet it seems like there's even more problems now than there were 1,000 years ago.
The scientist in me just has to butt in and say, you know, that 50% I threw out, like, that's not an actual figure. It's an approximation from memory, so don't quote me on that. Anyway,
it's kind of similar to when you say, like, oh, 1 million such and suches did something.
Yeah,
you weren't literally meaning that.
Yeah, I just know it's like more often than like, oh, hardly ever. It's like there's a lot of people born with tails. It's a thing. That's all.
Huh. Well. Huh.
Yep.
Online dating is a wide space. I might have to investigate that.
Do you, or have you ever had a tail? If the latter, are you into stump porn?
There is porn
demonetized.
Everything. And I'm not going to say that I've watched all the porn for everything, but I might have watched all the porn for everything. And I enjoyed it.
Did you ever see that movie 8mm?
Oh, yeah.
Did you watch that porn?
No, I have not.
You haven't watched all the porn.
Okay. Well, you'll have to enlighten me as to that.
Well, I'm not saying I have. I'm just telling you haven't. It's not 100%.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. Well, and like I said, with that 50%, literally 1 million people thing. When you say 100%, you don't necessarily mean 100%, and you shouldn't. There's always more room for improvement and learning and stuff. The thing is, like, we should be getting along, and man, I can't wait for the Ukraine episode because this fucking bugs me. Like, I thought we'd have gotten over our, petty desire for warfare a long time ago and learned something. Just like with the whole COVID thing. Like, I would think by now we would know some stuff, but we're still doing the same stuff we were doing before. And people are like, yeah, it seems good. I'm on board with that. Like, how can you be? That doesn't make any sense. Oh man.
Yeah.
Yes, jeez.
Well, what if we were Joe Rogan? What if we were like the #1 Spotify channel and we had all kinds of scrutiny on the things that we said? And let's say like our episode on incest, like let's take a real like deep down the sink kind of
a hard hitter. Yeah.
Like let's say that like a bunch of people were trying to cancel us. Like, how would you respond to the public?
I would ask them to be a guest. If I were Joe Rogan, I would be like, hey, Neil Young, come on on the show and talk about it. Like, let's have a conversation about what you feel.
Yeah.
That's my answer to that. How about you?
I mean, I think if it were about something specific, I might feel inclined to like make mention of that in the public statement. To further clarify, just because there's an importance in that. Like, I would definitely go on to ask them to come on the show and have a conversation, but there's going to be so many people that don't bother to watch that second half of the argument. They're going to make up their minds unless they have a little bit of extra information from you, right?
Yeah.
The media is painting it like I said, I have this stance. Let me just quickly clarify. If you want to learn more, come and check out our interview with so-and-so, right?
I think that's fair. That's a pretty fair way to do it.
Because you kind of have to, take into factor the different ways that people assimilate information.
Yeah.
Not everybody's going to sit and watch an hour and a half of us babbling like front to back. I understand a lot of our biggest fans don't even like watch all the way through, and like that's fine, like taking as much information as possible. But I will say the drunker we get, the more awesome we are. So the ends of the episodes tend to be better.
I will agree with that. I'll drink to that.
He says drunkenly.
Oh man.
If I don't say so myself.
Hopefully I'm not that drunk.
That was like that Will Ferrell voice. Like, do you think the moon's made of cheese?
Oh man. This is like a really good conversation though.
Well, yeah, like from Neil Young and Joe Rogan / Spotify, like going at it, we can go into like censorship and, freedom and science and all kinds of stuff.
Oh yeah. Man, this show is so fucking good. I know I keep saying that, but it really is.
One of these days we need to make a compilation video of all the times we're like patting ourselves on the back.
It really is. And like, I think our format of having two different people with like similar but distinctly different ways of seeing things really, man, that
so somebody I was watching the episode with this last weekend said, so you guys have known each other a while, and I was like, yeah, like over 20 years. And she was saying, you guys must never argue. And I was like, oh, we've argued.
Yeah, this whole show is predicated on our arguments.
Like we've evolved our interactions over 20 plus years to like reduce the amount of arguments, at least in intensity.
Yeah, but the arguments, like, there used to be a time a long time ago when argumentation was a negative, and now it's like a positive. It's like, oh man, this is like the best episode ever. Like we we raised our voices and talked about things, and
we should be pulling all the clips from the end of the episode because we're all like animated at that point.
There they are. Oh man. Yeah, like I really appreciate all of the arguments we've had. Like I really enjoy that.
Each other's minds.
And
gone back and forth. Like there's like on fair tax. I've jumped over that fence a couple times. Like I'm like, oh, that wouldn't make any sense. And I'm like, oh, you know what? That does make sense. And I'm like, well, but there's this thing that I don't know. And then,
and I think that's important that we don't agree on things. Like I'm pretty sure, honestly, that you and I, Casey, agree on like the fundamentals.
Yeah.
Like of what we want to see in the world. We just disagree on how to achieve that. And that's the fun conversation is like, well, how do we do that?
Or how it can be achieved.
Or
the ways that we view human behavior and their predilection towards saving their own skins or helping others.
Well, and as somebody as an engineer, like I think about like, well, I see it as an engineering problem. Like, okay, well, humans behave this way. You just have to do this thing and build this construct and whatnot. And you have your own ways of seeing things, like more biological and like it's honestly like, well, if you're new here, it's the best show ever.
Yeah, I mean, no, it really is. Like there are times I step back, like outside of myself and think like, wow, this actually is like like I sit and watch our episodes, right, and I'll like crack up laughing like I'm watching a stand-up comedy show. Like even though I already lived through it, or like already received the joke or gave the joke, like I'm like, whoa, that was really funny, like, and it comes between such like deep thoughts that just spring up out of nowhere like geysers, like.
Yeah, and and we're talking about like really deep, important human condition kinds of things.
And we're nothing special, really. I think if any two people recorded their conversations every time they just sat down to have beers together, they would be astounded at what they come up with. Like there's so much you don't remember. When I watch myself back, I'm like, I don't even remember that part. Yeah. Like, I don't remember experiencing that. And it's not because I'm 40. It's just because that's how we create memories.
Exactly.
And we decide what we keep and what we trash. And, just like you clear your hard drive from time to time.
Yeah. Defrag, right?
So, like having this stuff cataloged in perpetuity, like I'm about to start like binge watching our own show. Like, oh, you know what? I don't remember what happened in season 1. It's been a couple of years. I need to go like binge watch that, like.
Oh man, season 1. Oh, that was some good stuff. Like, and this is the thing, like this show keeps getting better. Like, how do we do this? How is this even possible? It's great. But yeah, you're right. Like, and the entire premise of the show was based, well, essentially around a Heineken ad.
Yeah.
Well,
that and Sherry's.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, that too.
just the core of our conversation style.
Yeah.
When it comes from that, like I often actually, when we have guests on, I actually envision us in a booth at Sherry's. Like,
yep. I do the exact
the big
thing.
one, right? Like the big round.
Yeah, the big table with the light, and you put the creamers up there, and
yeah, it's like it really is just like going out and sitting at a bar, only it's quieter.
Yeah,
except when the dogs are eating.
Or
and you just get into good conversation with one or more people, or yourself for a minute microscopy.
Well, and I don't think we should necessarily undersell ourselves. Like, I think we think about things on a very deep level.
Well, yes, yeah.
So, and we disagree in a way that's very entertaining. Like, we've argued so many times. Like, if I disagree with you, I am not feeling any kind of stuff other than like, oh, this is going to be a great conversation.
Cobra Man.
Man.
Why are we even fighting, man?
And I wish that was a thing that like politicians could do. Seems they can't. So, hey, if you're an aspiring politician, watch KSM and learn the right way to disagree with somebody.
The next phase of government is probably going to be, we don't just elect one president, we elect a Democrat and a Republican.
Yep.
But for anything to happen, they have to like have a kitchen sink microscopy style discussion about it.
Oh yeah, totally. And it has to be live streamed. Like,
and if they don't make a decision, nothing happens.
Yeah.
But you know what? That's not really any different than the way we do things now. So
it pretty much isn't. Yeah. Oh, man, the show is so good. So good. Yeah.
I've been doing some shameless plugs on all this Joe Rogan nonsense. like, oh, hey, like this is exactly the kind of thing that kitchen sink microscopy does better.
We actually do, because like you said, like, we will challenge people.
Yeah.
And ask questions.
Like the anti-vaxxer episode in season 1, like, well, 2-parter really, because like
oh,
that man, was so like
where we got like super drunk for like 3 hours. Oh man, that was fun.
We should like finish editing that for people that like donate $50 to Patreon or whatever.
Yeah, we should. That was a good one though. Oh man.
But yeah, like I wish more of the world operated this way.
Well, if it did, we would not annihilate ourselves
like
through nuclear war.
Imagine instead of church, where you go and listen to one person talk at you for an hour. Instead of that, you have a weekly discussion with your mates.
Oh man.
Like, that would be a worthwhile religion.
It would be. And imagine if like,
see, I keep drawing us closer and closer to becoming a cult.
No, please, for God's sake, do not become a cult. Become a cult, as in the one with the O. Yeah, that's okay.
Occult. I was like,
yeah.
COULT.
Yeah.
Cult.
It's okay. Like,
you dirty cult.
It's okay to explore things. I mean, dude, we're both Scandinavian, so we're very familiar with the occult. Mm, mm.
Yeah, I thought I killed my grandpa with a spell.
Shit.
Yeah, I was so my first wife was Wiccan. And during the early part of our engagement, my grandfather died of Alzheimer's complications, and the night that he was like basically on his deathbed, went to visit him, and then I went home and lit this like purple candle in a fancy little candle holder and tried to take his pain away with a spell.
Mm-hmm.
And he died while I was doing that. And I was like, oh shit. Did I just basically like take his pain away by like killing him? Like I actually thought like, and this by the way was like right before I became an atheist. I actually thought I killed my grandpa because I didn't word it correctly. It was like I dream of genie kind of wording, like, oh, here, let me fuck this up for you, master.
And I could see how you could think that. Like, I mean, it is very coincidental.
Correlation, but
yeah. But that doesn't mean that's exactly how that went down.
Right.
It's really hard to convince people, though. It's
I was a naive 18-year-old kid.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and aren't most voters too?
Oh yeah.
So,
oh my God, can I just say I don't want everyone to vote. Like everyone should be able to. Yes.
Oh, I agree.
But I don't want 100% votership because there are way too many people that don't give a shit
or don't know anything.
Right.
Like they actually
or some combination
don't know anything at all. Do you really want everybody to decide?
You want them flipping a coin over everything?
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of scary. Man.
Yeah.
Well, that's a whole different episode we should probably go into. And hey, in the comment section, if you want us to talk about that, yeah, I'll drink to that.
I might just write that one down.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a good one.
Yeah. Oh man.
Well,
I do kind.
Did we ramble on enough, or should we?
Yeah, we're like an hour and 15 in, so I think we've talked enough about this. I don't think we have talked enough. Like, I think this is one of those kinds of topics that's probably timeless. Like, it'll never, ever be figured out.
Yeah.
And just saying, if you're one of the people that thinks that you've figured it out, well, you haven't. You're just beginning.
You might have good ideas, but
and yes, by all means, share them. Share your ideas. Share your thoughts. That is important.
Yeah.
But don't believe that like what you think is the right thing. The one way to like one cool trick to life hack, that kind of thing. Like
it's teamwork.
It's it totally is.
You think you got like this great idea and you say it out loud to the team, and somebody else with a different perspective is like, oh, but there's this one thing, and you're like, oh shit, yeah, you would have jumped onto some project with like a major flaw that you didn't see.
Yeah, and that's the important thing about
you gotta
sharing
like talk
things.
and share. Yeah,
and remember, this is a planet we're talking about, not just like your own country or your own borders. Like, we are humans coexisting on planet Earth. Like, there are a lot of ideas, and we should entertain them. And even if you think somebody's idea is stupid, listen to it, like, entertain it, take a minute, think about it. Like, absorb it. That's important. I can't stress that enough. I'm just like, can we not go to war? Please, for fuck's sake, can we not launch nukes at each other over stupid ass political disagreements? Because that's about to happen, by the way.
It never does. It almost always always almost happens.
Well,
it's weird how it's harder to say it that way than almost always versus always almost.
Well, you know about the doomsday clock, right? Like it's like seconds to midnight for like 40 years. It's been that way. But, you know, the thing is, like, the implications, if that did ever happen, are so big, like so game changing for the whole planet. I'm really worried about that. Like, oh man, I'd like to talk about like nuclear weapons and the positive sides of like how we have not really had a hot war in a long time as a planet. But if we ever did, well, this planet would be done.
Man, that war is hot.
Yeah. Oh, you want the Russian hot war. It's not gonna be cute Russian girls. It's gonna be fucking nukes coming down.
That war is hot.
Oh man. Now I'm gonna have to bust out my Russian hat too. By the way, those hats, like if you want to survive in the cold, are awesome.
Oh yeah, it's like a cross between like your average snow hat and like a chef's hat, which is ironically meant to cool you off because like the air in a kitchen is actually hotter than the air that you give off, and by trapping that, it keeps your head cool.
That's some interesting technology, and it's like well over 100 years old.
Yeah,
pretty crazy.
Well, it's not that far out of the scope of like figuring out, right? Because people in the desert, like, you know, they'll wear the head covering, right? And you're thinking to yourself like, well, in the summer, if I put a hat on, I'm way too hot. But it's not like that hot, you know?
Yeah.
It's just like when the pandemic happened, I realized, you know, I went down to Arizona and I realized if I put the mask on, I'll keep cool because my breath is cooler than this 110 degree dry ass air.
Yeah. And more moist and stuff. Like,
yeah.
Man. Wow. Jeez.
So yeah, like sometimes what's not at first intuitive actually makes sense when you analyze it.
Mm-hmm.
And you probably won't do that if you aren't listening to anyone.
Yeah, or listening to this channel, like watching this video all the way through.
Listening to this channel with our great deep radio voices.
Oh, yeah.
Up next, we've got Elton John with Crocodile Rock.
I was thinking about that song that he did with...
You're listening to KKSM.
Well, I was thinking about that song that he did with John Lennon, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. One of my favorite songs, by the way.
That was a cover of the Beatles, though, right?
Well, but it wasn't really a cover because one of the Beatles was performing that song.
Right, but I mean, like, they didn't write it together, I'm saying.
No. It was like, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess it might be.
Yeah, I wasn't clear what you meant there, so. Like.
And that's
you just said when they did that song, and I was like, do you mean that did they write it together? Or like
and see, that's the thing. It's like we can see things differently and still like have a laugh and get along.
Yeah.
Like,
well, we're just clarifying, because like if you had wrote that in text, I almost certainly would have not understood you, and I even talking, I still didn't understand. So I had to ask.
Exactly. And I actually bad time to bring up like political things on the holidays, but like I think it was like Christmas, I was getting in a conversation with my dad's new wife about emojis, and she was like really annoyed about emojis. And I was saying like, no, emojis actually serve a valuable purpose. It's a way to kind of clarify things. So, you follow up a statement with like a picture, like, oh yeah, laughing or crying or winking or something like that. And it bugged her. And I was selling that to everybody.
Well, how else do you add the nuance?
What exactly? And my aunt was like, oh yeah, no, he's totally right.
Yeah. Like, the one thing you can't add though is sarcasm. Like, so like, am I laughing at you or with you? Like, I mean, context can play into it, but like,
well, in stacking up emojis like that's okay. Like you're and people get all bent out of shape, like, oh well, the English language and blah 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 and stuff. It's like
the English language is taught. It's tautological. I mean, like not tautological. Totty.
Yeah,
it's totty.
I mean, it's the best we have for what we have, but it's interesting that all of the things that we used to use back in like thousands of years ago, the Egyptian language, the pictorial language, hieroglyphs. We've gone full circle and we've come back to them.
Yep.
To convey, because you see a picture of a thing and it makes more sense than like
hieroglyphs are emojis.
Yeah, they are.
And it made a lot of sense back then to the people who built the goddamn pyramids. So
fuck yeah. Like Jesus. What? That's a good point.
Those idiots. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they merely aligned everything to the stars and had a firm grasp of mathematics. Oh yeah, a bunch of assholes.
Yeah, they aren't like us geniuses at Volkswagen that know you can fit a surprising amount of stuff into a dome.
Oh man.
That's an old ass commercial.
But it's still relevant. Yeah. Turbonium.
Man, we got way off.
But that's a really good topic.
Yeah.
Man, I just like, can we get a couple of politicians to watch this? Just a few.
Come on the show, have a few beers, talk about your platform.
And I don't care what your political leanings are. I don't care if I agree with you or not. In fact, I'd prefer that I disagree with you. Like,
well, and we would totally like call them out on dodging questions. We'd be like, well, you didn't actually answer the question. You never hear that from Tucker Carlson or whatever.
Oh fuck! I'm not gonna let that fly. Like, no. If I ask you a question, I want you to answer it candidly.
Like when they asked Hillary Clinton, "What do you think of women in the draft?" Well, I think it would be a great thing if all the women voted and everyone's like, yeah. And they're like, okay, yeah, that's a great answer.
Oh, yeah, you kind of missed the whole draft thing. Yeah, that is a huge problem. Like, letting things go on face value. Like, oh, man. Yeah, any politician. I am like, I welcome any person from any political persuasion to come on the show and say whatever they want. Let's have a conversation. I'm ready. Are you?
Say anything you want, but don't do anything you want. Like, about your junk or,
Okay, yeah, that's
Anthony Weiner.
The red herring, though, like that. Oh, man.
Red herring, like logical fallacy, or like Anthony Weiner's. Never mind.
Yeah, I'm just gonna leave that one alone because demonetization. That's the thing.
Red Rover. Well, if you stuck it out this far, you're probably pretty drunk too.
Yeah, I hope so. Like, hey, if not, like, have another beer. Crack. Oh, I don't have any more beers.
Ooh.
Oh, no, I do. This is just the last one.
Okay.
But like, if you disagree with somebody, like, the most important thing, hi Floyd. The most important thing is to, like, have a conversation.
Yeah, clarify.
Yeah.
Give people the benefit of the doubt. Like, don't instantly jump to, oh, they're a fucking idiot because they don't agree with me.
Well, and like, stick to the, like, principles too. Like, yeah, I know people disagree on stuff. Everybody disagrees on stuff. But hi Floyd. But be like a cat. Look at this guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, the chances are most people are still going to disagree, but like, at least there's either a seed of something more in the direction of the truth, or they've strengthened their skills at projecting something that is maybe closer to the truth. Like,
oh yeah, and like, I don't know all the answers. I don't claim to know all the answers. I enjoy a challenge. Like, face me, challenge me. Like,
and the things that, as far as like building your own argument skills to, further something that might be closer to the truth, like, a lot of that just comes from the challenge, like,
yeah.
And relating it to other things to make it easier to understand. And what that does is it builds analogical thinking, which is going, like, really, which is what is the core of imagination, I think.
Yeah.
Because you're able to, like, see things in completely different ways. Like, you, like, look at a tree stump and you see, like, the mast of a pirate ship or something, and it's like, that's analogical thinking. You're like, well, that's long and, thin and tall, and, like, it could be the mast of a pirate ship. You don't have that if you aren't, like, looking outward from time to time.
Yeah, like, occasionally daydream and look at the clouds
and find similarities. Like, that's like, exactly, find clouds and patterns, like, see shapes in the clouds. That's our strength. That's our analogical thinking.
Yeah, that's what humans do best.
Yeah, this comes from evolution. Like, that's how we survive to, like, be this dumb.
Like, as dumb as we are, we survived this far against all odds. Do we really want to like end it all because of some political disagreement? Like, right. I would hate to have that be the case. What a tragedy.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Wipe all the life off the planet because they aren't the same political ideology as you.
Man, that would, Jesus. Well, you know, that's kind of a morose note to end on, but I think it might be a good point to end on, I guess.
Yeah. Gotta take a leak.
Yeah. Well, and we don't have any more ads left, so
yeah, I got to think of some new ones. But that's all right. We got some good feedback on the pseudo-cheese.
Nice.
Pseudo-cheese. It may not be cheese, but it sure is orange.
Sure is orange. Oh man.
Ask your local retailer to stock pseudo-cheese.
Oh man. Well,
drunken live ad there. Something that doesn't exist.
But it should. We'll make it exist. Like,
what kind of does? Like vegan cheese?
Yeah.
Oh, steer clear of that crap, man. Oof.
Yeah.
There's some good vegan stuff, but cheese is not one of them.
Yeah. So if you're ever in Tacoma, the best vegan place is Quickie 2. That's TOO.
So you get vegan food and a quickie?
Oh, sadly, no.
Oh, see, that's false advertising. Yeah.
I know. But they have good food. Like the best vegan food. And I'm not a vegan, but you know, if you're trying to sell me on veganism, that would do it.
Is it better than Viva?
Oh, hands down.
Wow.
It's so fucking good. It's really good. Well, you know, if everybody wants to see that, maybe we should do like a Quickie 2 lunch special or something. That would be nice. Yeah.
And then on Patreon, you get a Quickie too.
No, that's
that's OnlyFans, right?
Yeah, OnlyFans or xvideo.com/KSMVidcast. Not actually a channel, but it should be.
Yeah. One of our super fans is gonna make one and like gump our heads onto a bunch of porn stars.
Oh man. Well, you know, here's the thing. Like, if you want to avoid war, the best way is to trade and fuck. That's my philosophy. Like, have sex, trade your stuff, you know, exchange of goods and services and things.
Hey, you want my Barry Bonds rookie card, man?
Yeah, why not? Like eBay or Open Bazaar. Oh, hey, Open Bazaar, by the way. Anyway, yeah. Oh, well, apparently this cat. Jesus, what are you?
Is that bizarre like bizarre or bizarre like bizarre?
That's a bizarre like a tent that you trade things in.
So 3 A's, right? An A and then 2 A's.
Yeah. So 2 in the back end and 1 in the front end. Wait, isn't it like
1 in the front, 2 in the back?
1 in the stink. Well, that's the opposite. Never mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, open.
That's the experienced version.
We're gonna double you up. bitch. that was definitely not meant in a bad way.
Well, I'm sure there's a song floating into your ear hairs.
Yeah.
And tickling them.
And there's the cat.
And now it's rubbing against the tympanic membrane of your inner ear and caressing it slowly by the fire.